Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 86. We are in the middle of July, and it is hot here in New York. I'm loving it. I told myself a couple of years ago, as you know, my age is advancing, and I can't stand the winters anymore. And I told myself I'm never going to complain about the heat ever again. So I don't care how hot it gets. I'm loving it, and it really feels like summer, and feels good. So it's good to be here. This podcast is going to be another thoughts of the week style podcast. Just going to go over just some things I've been thinking about. It's interesting, when you have kids, they really kind of make you rethink so many things. And being able to see things through the lens of that youthful eye, sometimes, a lot of times enables me to really appreciate things from a different perspective. So in this podcast, I'm going to talk about judgment and criticism and the difference between the two and the value that one should seek from criticism. So first thing is, let's just get judgment off the table. Judgment to me is invariably a bad thing. And my daughter will use the word a lot, she or he's being judgy, or that's judgy. And, it has a negative connotation appropriately. Usually when there's judgment, someone is, using their own moral value system or, their own beliefs to project onto somebody else. And there's, it's kind of like, haters are going to hate type of thing. If someone's hating on you, they're judging you. There's really no value to that at all. There's no positive will that a person is using when they're judging you. So judgment right off the table is big X. Don't place any value in it. Don't let it infiltrate your mind. Don't let it penetrate your thoughts. Don't let it affect you, because the only effect it could possibly have on you is an adverse effect. So judgment sucks. Avoid judgy people, and don't take any judgment into account, because it really adds no value to your life, to your growth. Just forget judgment. Now, criticism kind of falls into two categories. So there's criticism. So there's inherent value to criticism. So when someone who has value to add is critiquing you or giving you advice, there's generally great value in that. I want to get into details. But there's some criticism that is just useless criticism. So for instance, if someone who's incredibly out of shape is giving you a critique on your diet and workout regimen, there's probably no value to that. You're not really going to gain much there. You really have to consider the source when you're hearing criticism. If someone who's broke as a joke is giving you financial advice and stock tips and investment advice, probably not much value there, and probably something that you should avoid. But on the flip side, there is really a ton of value to criticism from the right source. So as a for instance, if you're at the gym and you're working out, and someone who's in incredibly great shape and is jacked and ripped comes up to you and says, hey, maybe if you alter the way you're doing this particular exercise and try doing it this way, or, maybe you can manipulate your diet in this way, do some carb cycling or this, that, or the other thing, and really, give you constructive advice, criticism that has value, that can really elevate your game. I love the concept of, you never want to be the smartest person in the room, right? Because, if you're trying to get in shape, you're going to be hanging out with people who are in better shape than you, so you can emulate their behavior. They can give you appropriate criticism on where you may be going wrong and the proper advice to guide you. Success leaves clues. You want to be hanging out with people who are more successful than you in whatever it may be, fitness, finances, education, whatever the case may be. But there's a lot of value there as long as you're open to it. So obviously, when someone is critiquing you, it never feels good, right? It's always as humans, our first response is always one of being somewhat defensive, and our egos can get somewhat shattered in when receiving criticism. But the truth is, if you really are considering the source of someone who's giving you criticism, And criticism and advice are kind of like similar things in my mind, constructive criticism and advice, that is. If you're considering the source, like for instance, when I'm playing golf and I'm playing with my brother-in-law, who's an amazing golfer, and he's giving me, critiquing my swing and saying, hey, maybe try this or try that, I'm going to listen to that because he's a really, really good golfer. And what he's telling me is based on his own success as a golfer, right? But when someone who's much worse than me or has like no real skill gives me a tip, obviously you're not going to really add much value to that. So filtering the criticism, really kind of considering the source of who's giving you critique/advice is super important. But really, like I said, surrounding yourself with people who are better than you at whatever it is you're trying to do is how we grow, and being receptive to the critique/advice of those folks is really how we grow. So being receptive and responsive to valuable criticism from sources who are adding value to you is really a huge part of crushing it. So those are my thoughts of the week. There's no place for judgment. So just, throw that out the window and, put your barriers up and shield yourself from judgment, because it's never really coming from a place of value, a place of goodness. Criticism, on the other hand, can add a lot of value to our growth on our journey to striving for greatness. Another phrase that I love. So with that, I hope you all have a restful, wonderful week and are ready to just crush the week ahead. Let's get it.